Hey, welcome to another episode of Faithful Leaders. I'm your host, Jake, and I have with me again here, Thomas. Thomas, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day. There's a lot on the mind of leaders these days with the economy and things changing in the world and inflation. One of the big problems that they're seeing internally is that they don't have enough leaders, and it's overwhelming them because work is coming back to them. And they know that older leaders are retiring and newer leaders aren't coming fast enough. So what can they do to develop new leaders?
Yep, I'm definitely seeing the same thing on my side. Lots of people out there struggling to get more great people in so that we can continue to grow. So, what did you hear about that you want to tell us today?
Well, I want to start with a principle that we've looked at from Exodus 18:21, where God is commanding Moses to select leaders. Number one, he says, look for able men from all the people, men who fear God, who are trustworthy and hate a bribe. These character traits are absolutely foundational to every leader. For if they can't fear God, they're not going to do what is right for the Lord and according to what's right for the company that they're serving. So number one, that's a big one. What I want to talk more about today, though, is how we select for a leader for their level of work. The Lord commanded Moses to place such men over the people as chiefs of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. So how do we decide, and how can we see and select leaders and grow them to be those leaders over tens, fifties, hundreds, and even thousands?
Great. Yeah. So, we definitely want to grow leaders. What does a process look like to find those people and grow them moving forward?
Well, so I sat down with my leader and we're looking at two different candidates in the hiring process. So to grow leaders, we want to be able to test them and ask them a powerful question.
Mhm.
What did you do to solve a really difficult problem? And how did you go about it? So we wanted to get them describing that for them. So in this case, we're looking at two different candidates and we're looking at two different types of leaders. One type of leader we're looking at is a supervisor level that can ensure the quality and delivery of the work. The next level up of leader that we might be looking at is a modeler. That person designs the system and the process to deliver the work within the constraints available. How much time do you have? How much equipment and money do you have to deliver the result? And those are two different levels of work. So when we ask the question, to give me an example of the kind of difficult problem you solve, we're looking at three things. What kind of problem are they solving? What are they doing to solve the problem? And what is the time required to solve the problem? So the first person we talked to described a problem of delivering a new IT system and software system, and talked about how they had used this checklist before and how they were going to deliver the problem. And they were looking at making sure that it got the result. So this is a supervisor. The kind of problem they're solving is a quality problem. They're using a step-by-step procedure. He indicated he was going to use his best practice experience. He was going to get people together, coordinate the meetings. This is an indication, number two, of what kind of problem is he solving. He's solving a problem like a supervisor would, relying on that experience and checklists. And how long did it take him to solve the problem? Well, it took a few months. So he's not looking out very far. He's going through it, and he's able to get this done based upon what he's done in the past. Okay, works great. What he's done in the past, he's firmly in that supervisor camp. Another candidate, we asked, what did you do to solve the problem? What kind of problem are you solving? He was deploying an IT system that was more complicated and across multiple locations, and it was going to take longer. So he started to tell us, okay, I've got this whole system. I've got multiple locations here. I've got a sequence I need to follow because there's multiple locations, multiple steps, and I've got problems I've got to anticipate. So this person is clearly a modeler because they're thinking about the resources going into the system. They're thinking about the kind of problem they're solving and the sequence related to it. So what are they doing to solve the problem? He was looking at an analysis. He created the process. He planned for the resources to get the best outcome and who was going to do each location and how they're going to do it. And he created a model and a process for that. A modeler is going to do these things. And then finally, how long did it take to solve it? Well, it didn't take that long to do it once he'd set it up, but it took him 9 months to a year to do it. And so that year gives kind of an indication of the durability of the problem, and a process ought to last a year, and it ought to solve those problems, the complex problems that you're going to see. And so in this way, I was able to work with this, and we were clearly able to see we had two different levels of leader applying for the same position, but we could discern what level of work they were going to be able to do coming in very quickly. And so my leader was able to do this with me until he could do it the same way that I would, and we come to the same conclusion, and it allowed him to get the transformation coming out of it. which was namely faster identification to select these leaders, to be able to see more with better reliability, the differences between the two types of leaders and the level of work, and it saved time later in the process, so we didn't have to pass candidates through. So the leader really needs to understand who you're selecting for. And now that this leader was able to do this, he was able to go and grow our internal leaders as well. So now I had trained someone to do it. So truly transformed him to be a faithful leader in selecting and growing other leaders.
It's always great to know that we have scripture and biblical things that we can do to build leaders. So thanks so much for sharing that with us today.
My joy. Be faithful.